Can you hear me now? Is it better? Is it better now? Um, can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it better now? I'll hit to stop the show and come back. Please give me a quick thumb up. Is it better now? Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you loud and clear now. All right, thank you, Amar. Thank you so much. So yes, let me just recap. Um, okay, good. LIB got you. Thank you. All right, thank you. Um, all right, good. So let me recap. What constitutes a narco state? A narco country or a narco state is where illegal drug trade has become so influential that it significantly shapes the state's institutions, its policies, or security forces. The term is often used in political debates, and that's what is happening right now with this drug issue in Liberia is becoming politicized. That people, in the case of a former president, referring to our country that he just served over the last 2.5 years as a narco state, as if to say there was no drug, and during his leadership, and we're going to juxtapose what happened in his leadership and that with what is happening, and no one is taking sides here, because bottom line is the issue of drug affecting our young people is a danger to sustaining leadership, successive leadership, because when we have a lot of our young people not going to school and doing all the negative things, who inherits the country? Here we have the other day 150,000 Burkinabes all over the country, somewhere in the southeastern region. We have other, nationalities coming in the country with no papers. They're just languishing all over the place. Since that is why our young people need to go to school to learn, to be educated, so that they can inherit a country. But when we have a former politician calling the country a narco state, we want to make sure that we draw that line clearly. Now, is it on the principles of becoming a narco state? Yes, it's possible. But has it gotten to be a narco state yet? I would say no, from what I'm about to share. So, government officials are deeply involved in drug trafficking. That is a sign of a narco state. Senior politicians, military leaders, meaning the defense ministry, the police, commanders, the intelligence officials, the LDEA, the immigration, all these people actively participate in drug trafficking and to protect the drug trafficking organizations. Are we seeing that yet? Because we have a drug case. Drug cartels influence or control state institutions. General organizations can bribe, right? Rather, criminal organizations can bribe or intimidate judges, police, legislators, and government agencies to act in their interest. Have we seen that? Do we see cartels moving around with guns, strange people in pickup bikes, going to the homes of legislators and threatening them to make laws and put in place policies that will protect them? Do we see any judge coming out here and say, "Oh, I was cornered by the cartel and they want to take my life if I don't free the man"? Have we gotten to that? The rule of law is seriously weakened. Where in that country the rule of law is so weakened, laws are selectively enforced. Of course, it's possible. Investigations are blocked, and traffickers enjoy impunity because of political protection. Do we see it right now? I know there's an investigation that is trending. The noise is, who are the hands in it? The investigations, the investigation is ongoing, and the folks who are doing the investigation saying that we're not calling names, we're still doing the investigation because we don't want to muddy the water. So at least an investigation is ongoing. In this case, in the narco state, you're not going to find investigations going because now the government is involved, the officials of government are involved, all of the parastatuses, security people are all involved. When that gets to that point, that's a narco state. Is it happening in Liberia right now? I would say no, in all fairness to the country. Drug money has major influence over the economy and politics. Do we see drug money infiltrating our economy? Do we see drug money helping to formulate our budget? Do we see where cartel gangs are giving the government $200-300 million to help beef up the budget? Have we seen that? No. Do we see politicians all over the country being infiltrated by drug cartel? No. Illicit proceeds financing election. Have we seen where drug cartels have financed any election campaigns? No. Buying political loyalty and distorting legitimate businesses and public institutions. Have we gotten to see that? No. No, and I mean no. If anyone disagrees, show it out here. The government cannot and will not confront trafficking organization. When the government itself is unable to confront trafficking organizations, but this government is trying its best to what? Investigate a $19 million bust, right? It's highly possible. So we have not gotten to a point where anyone, including former President George Weah, to consider Liberia a narco state. What does not automatically make a country a narco state? A country is not necessarily a narco state because a large shipment of drug is seized. The shipment of the drug that is seized, the $19 million drug, does not make Liberia a narco state. It is a transit route for cocaine or other narcotics. By Liberia becoming a new transit route, it does not make Liberia a narco state. No, no. It is possible that over time it can get to that, but not at this point and where we are with everything that is happening right now. To label the country as a narco state, it is absolutely out of character. It is wrong. Former President Weah and those who are fueling this conversation are very wrong. It also says that government officials are corrupt. Yes, government officials are corrupt in Liberia. But how many of the government officials you see involved with drug cartel? Point it out to me. Now, if it's done, it may be surreptitious. But in a narco state, it is open. It is open. It's like a gangster paradise. Drug trafficking exists even within its borders. The cocaine was transited through Liberia. Okay, it came from somewhere. And for people to say, oh, the government know, it's possible. But it's also not possible that certain people in the government, including the president, will have known. People who deal in drugs don't come to the public. They do it underground. But of course, yes, there are hands in there. Because there must be an entry point and an exit point. And there's no way, if we're doing our job as security people, right, that entry point will be manned well. There will be a thorough scrutiny. And unfortunately, it may not have happened. That's how the drug came in, because some hands were in it. The point I'm making here is that I am not taking side to say no, there isn't any drug situation in the country. I'm not taking side to say there is not investigation going on. I'm not taking side to say whether the government is lying and not lying. I'm saying that when a former president comes out here and tell the world that Liberia is a narco state, when oppositions are labeling the country as a narco state, when followings of political institutions are labeling the country as a narco state, that is dangerous for our image. That's the point I want to make, and that is why I'm defining what constitute a narco state. Countries that have at various times been described by scholars, journalists, or international organizations as approaching or exhibiting characteristics of a narco state? Afghanistan is one of them. During the periods when the opinion production heavily influenced governance. You and I know that opinion is a major marketing product in Afghanistan, and it influenced governance in the country. Has any scholar, has international journalists, institutions out there come to condemn Liberia and call it a narco state? I doubt it. None has said it. So why is former President Weah jumping the guns to label the country he just served as a narco state? He should be the one encouraging the government to expedite the process. He should come and speak and say, President Bouaka, you're on obligation to ensure that this investigation takes us to a logical conclusion and that someone is held liable, because we don't want our country to be perceived as a narco state. That's what a statesman will do. But instead, you label the very country that you want to run for again. So if Liberia becomes a narco state, are you in the position to change it from a narco state? Do you know what a narco state looks like? Do you really know what governance in a narco state looks like? You, President Weah, and you former opposition rather, and you former officials who are all on social media calling your country a narco state. Guinea-Bissau, which has frequently been cited as one of the clearest modern examples because of long-standing allegations of the military and political involvement in the cocaine trafficking. In fact, it is alleged that probably Guinea-Bissau is where the cocaine came from to enter into Monrovia and to go through our Roberts International Airport to travel on to Europe. So Guinea-Bissau has been labeled a narco state. We haven't gotten to that point yet. Colombia, narco state. So let's come back. So to just label narco state is controversial and should be used cautiously. Cautiously. Not just outlandishly. Not just open your mouth because you want to say, oh yeah, when we are speak, it's power. No, it's not power. Sometimes when we are speak, it's scary because what he says sometimes is out of context. And I know we are supporters going to cut my neck off tonight, but it is the fact. It is the fact. When your spokesperson, your chief of staff say, we don't let him speak until we tell him to speak. So how do you say this one about your country? Did they tell you to call it a narco state? And couldn't you rationalize for yourself that your country has not gotten to that point to be a narco state? By having a consignment of drug caught, that in itself is a positive example in the right direction. So yes, we have not gotten to that point. So when you're using narco state, be cautious. It is a serious allegation that implies systemic corruption reaching the highest level of government. International organizations, researchers, and courts generally require substantial evidence before applying or labeling a country as a narco state. Have we gotten to that yet? Have we gotten to that? We haven't gotten to that. Nowhere there's evidence that the whole government has collapsed. Everyone is involved in the drug. Everyone is a zombie. In fact, who in Liberia could purchase cocaine? Who got the money for it? The layman drugs on the sidewalk, all over the place in the ghettos, the kush, the tramadol, and all that small thing. Who able to pay for cocaine? You know? So how do we get to that point? So that's the point I want to make. For example, if a country has recurring major drug seizures, recurring corruption involving some officials, okay, and organized crime operating within its borders, we haven't gotten to that yet. These are the things that will lead us there. And I'm not telling you that where we're going now in the trends, if this government does not put its foot down, hold those people accountable, and they let them slide, they'll come back. The cartel will do anything to come back. And then, of course, we will get to that point. I'm not saying that we don't have drugs in the country. I'm not saying that we're not investigating a drug bust. I'm not saying that some people are not involved in the country. But it's not at the proportion for us to be labeled as a narco state. So the more we keep having these drug bursts, then it means that we're getting in that direction. But for now, no. In short, the defining feature of a narco state is not the presence of drugs. It is the capture or profound corruption of state institutions by the drug trade. We haven't compromised our governance yet. Except people in the legislature want to come out now and tell me that they're involved. Senators and representatives are involved. Except you want to tell me the entire judiciary system is shut down and are involved. You want to tell me the entire executive branch of government is involved. You want to tell me you've seen where people are shooting each other, gang violence in the country, drug money changing hands, and people being killed. You're finding people with sign on them that say they're from this gang and that gang, and they were fighting over drug. We haven't gotten to that, and that is why we need to be careful how we label our country. So, what is trending now? Can Liberia be considered a narco state? Can Liberia be considered a narco state just because of this? What's happening? Based on the evidence that is publicly available today, it would not be accurate to definitely describe Liberia as a narco state. Because of one drug bust, and you call your whole country a narco state? Here's why. What the evidence shows is that in the recent seizure of approximately $19 million worth of cocaine at the Rabas International Airport, which is one of the largest drug interceptions in Liberia's history, authorities have said that the shipment was linked to transnational criminal networks. Multiple suspects have been reportedly detained, and the investigation has been elevated to a joint national security operation. This cannot happen in a narco state. This will not happen in a narco state where the government will proceed to bring joint security together to investigate a drug bust. In a narco state, it's covered. And what we fail to understand is that government is the power. Whatever government don't want to investigate, you can cry all you want, you opposition. You can jump from the ceiling. You can go to the Empire State Building and commit suicide. If government doesn't want to investigate, they will not do anything about it. So when government takes the action to do something, then you must give some credibility and encourage. Don't run to go contrary and label your country. Now, LRB guy is a question V. Do you see any characteristics or emerging trends that could suggest Liberia is developing traits associated with? I just said that, LRB guy. I said yes, the continued recurrence of drug bursts and stuff like that, and nothing being done, then we can be trending in that direction. But not at this point. Not at this point. Not at this point. We cannot be considered. So we just said it here. The evidence shows that the recent drug burst does not make Liberia a narco state. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency, of course, declined to publicly identify suspects, yet saying doing so will compromise the investigation. And these are standard procedures. Some investigation take forever. And I don't know where all of this coming from for people to think that because, big hands and small hands and plenty hands, all these hands. No, let us be on the government back that it has started something and it must end it. It must end it. While Liberia is not generally classified as a narco state, a country is usually considered a narco state when there is convincing evidence. Listen to this. A country is considered a narco state when there is convincing evidence that senior government officials systematically participate in drug trafficking. Key word, systematically. It means that it's a structure, arrangement. They got a system in place where senior government officials are partaking in drug trafficking. There's evidence, and we cannot present that evidence So this investigation that is ongoing, maybe at some point someone name will come out that will be a big hand. But until we get to that point, let us not label our country a narco state. Let us not do that. Large drug seizure, even repeated ones, do not themselves establish a country as a narco state. The research says that even with repeated drug, seizure, it means that a country is doing something. Let's be honest here. If your child does something and you don't chastise them, they will continue to do it, right? If your child does something and you chastise them, they will attempt to do it a few times, and the more you chastise them, they might desist from the behavior. That's how trafficking works. That's how drug trafficking works. They find a way to influence governance. There's so much money involved. They find a way to influence governance. I'm not going to the investigation. I'm not going to the Paul and Peter King conversation here, there, yonder, because I'm not going there. I'm just trying to establish that we should not be labeling our country a narco state because of a drug bust, or because it's in the name of opposition. They all wanted to make it look that way. All right? While concern is still justified. Now, I'm balancing this equation. Concerns will be justified. People who are arguing that big hands in the matter, you have the right to. Its location on the West African coast makes it attractive as a transit point for international cocaine trafficking. That region in the Atlantic between the South American countries, that route with few islands where they can transit until they get to the western coast of Africa. Weak institutions and corruption can create opportunities for organized crime, and that is what we as a country need to begin to open our eyes and talk about it. We need to talk about it. Seriously, we need to talk about it. Previous drug cases have generated public concern about whether investigations reach the true organizers. We know what happened, and we'll come to that in the $1 million drug bust on the WIA. How can we label $19 million to $100 million? Do we know the amount of money in $100 million as compared to $19 million? The current case has few public speculations, we agree, because investigators have withheld the identity of the suspect while continuing the inquiry. Now, we have one or two suspects being named, but people want more. And people want more because the optic is that the government and some big hands in the government are involved. And I'm not addressing that piece because I'm not investigating here. I'm only trying to say to you, my audience here tonight, Amma Freeman, Prince Yewon, LIB Gayu, all of you guys, Flomo Livingstone, that Liberia cannot be considered a narco state at this point because of one drug burst. And especially is being investigated. Especially is now a public and international matter. The government has the authority and power to gloss over anything they want to. They can keep it, they can stamp on it. But the government chooses to do an investigation. So we must give credit to where it's due. Liberia has a serious drug trafficking problem and appears to be an important transit point for international narcotic transport. That's the uptake. Liberia is not currently established as a narco state based on publicly available evidence. We don't have it. International scholars, researchers, international journalists, Interpol and all these places have not labeled our country. So President Weah is in the wrong for labeling his own country that he's intending to come back to serve as a narco state. He misspoke and he needs to withdraw that. What he should be talking about is holding the government foot to the fire by telling them, thank you for starting the investigation, but your role now as government is to ensure that we find those people who are involved, how this drug got in the country. We in opposition will make sure that you investigate this matter in accordance and bring us the evidence than to go on the country. He shouldn't be going on the country. Okay? He shouldn't be going on the country. Liberia is not currently a narco state. Whether it moves closer to that label will depend on the outcome of investigations. Okay? Let's wait until investigations are concluded with no logical conclusion, where we know the evidence was skewed, where we know the evidence was covered up just to protect people. We haven't gotten to that point, and it's not repetitive. It's not repetitive. We having one investigation and we turn the whole country into a narco state. Just one investigation, one major drug burst. Okay? It hasn't gotten there. If credible evidence eventually shows that senior political leaders or security officials are systematically protected or directed by the trafficking network, then the debate could change significantly. We're not there yet. If instead investigators can identify and successfully prosecute everyone involved regardless of their status, that would be the support to the conclusion that the state institutions are functioning rather than being captured and compromised. So what we should be advocating is for the national security apparatus to investigate, and if even government officials are involved, to bring them to book and to hold them accountable. That's what we want, and that's what we're imploring this government to do. But we're not going to label the situation now, calling our country a narco state. We have not gotten there. We're not in Colombia, we're not in Afghanistan, we're not in Guinea-Bissau. No international observer, no Interpol, not even the FBI that is quick to jump, CIA that is quick to jump and put on sanctions, has ever labeled us a narco state. So how can you, President Weah, a former statesman who wants to take on the leadership of the country again, beginning to denigrate the country's image to the world? This is preposterous. It is unfortunate for you to do that. All in the name of politics. You're looking to score big against the government. Yes, it is the way to go about it. But don't use the country's image. Don't denigrate the country's image, all because you want to come back to power and you want Barca out. And this is what we consider the opportunity in political traversing. When you traverse into the political ladder, you look for opportunity. And this is one opportunity that the oppositions are using now to call our country a narco state. Absolutely wrong. We cannot do that. For that reason, many observers argue that the ultimate test is not the size of the drug seizure, okay? It's not the size of the drug seizure, but whether the investigation will be independent, transparent, and reaches every reasonable person regardless of political influence. We're hearing that the Justice Minister is potentially facing a conflict of interest because Peter and Paul King have some relations to him, whether maternally or paternally, we don't know. But again, people will find all kinds of things to say. And if that be the case, for me, I would tell the Justice Minister to step aside, use his deputy, use some people outside of, him to do the investigation or to head the investigation. So, with all of that being said, is former President Weah in the right for calling Liberia a narco state? Can any of you here agree with me? I want to hear yes or no. Please, type it. Don't be afraid. Is President Weah, for all the things I've said, all of the examples, is he in the right for calling Liberia a narco state? And anyone else who is on any network referring to our country as a narco state, are they in the same mind? Are they aware what a narco state is? Did they do the research, or they just run with calling the country a narco state? Whether former President Weah has, is right or not, is politically charged. From a factual standpoint, the available public evidence does not support definitely calling Liberia a narco state, as I've indicated. So here's a balanced assessment. Okay? While Weah's statement resonates with some Liberians, many Liberians share concerns because Liberia has experienced several high-profile cocaine seizures in recent years. The 19 million US dollars cocaine case is among the largest in the country history. The alleged financiers and masterminds have not yet been publicly identified. There are long-standing concerns about corruption and the capacity of state institutions to combat organized crime. So yes, there's some optics around it. But it should be coming from the ordinary man. The ordinary citizens should be the one to refer, not a statesman, not those influential politicians and oppositions. We can't do that. For those reasons, some people believe Liberia is moving in a dangerous direction, which I agree with. I've said it here repeatedly, that the more this kind of stuff plays on the image of our country, we can be heading in the direction of a narco state. But we're not there yet. So while many analysts will not yet use the term narco state, calling a country a narco state is a very serious claim. Very serious claim according to the research. Very, very serious claim. It generally requires evidence that senior government officials are systematically involved in drug trafficking, criminal organizations have captured or heavily influenced key state institutions, the justice system consistently protects traffickers, and the drug trade significantly shapes government decision making. Are we there? Are we there? What is Solomon Moin saying here? Too sad, Mr. Shelton, who collaborated with Bouakai to call Liberia a Kush state under WIA, is now opposed to calling Liberia a narco state under Bouakai. Stop the hypocrisy. A Kush state, a marijuana state, is not the equivalent of a narco state, Mr. Moin. We know that Kush is the widely used drugs in the country. Is cocaine the widely used drug in the country? Can you find cocaine anywhere in the side on the sidewalk? Can you? This cocaine was not delivered in the country and was with the intent to distribute in the country. The intent was to send it through the country. The country was used as a transnational point. So let's not do this, Mr. Moin. Let's not do this. Let's not do this. I'm not a surrogate. I'm saying here that no one should call our country a narco state right now because we have not gotten there. There is a potential if we're not acting in the right direction. That's what I'm saying. So listen to the conversation. Don't jump to a conclusion that I've supported Bouakai and this and that. No, I did not support Bouakai. I supported what we wanted, a change. And don't let me get in that direction from the 6 years past. I'm moving on now. But yes, I supported a change of governance in Liberia because George Weah was not up to the task to run our country. And I still stand by that position. He doesn't have it to come back and run our country. If he can stand out here today without evidence and call our country a narco state, you cannot juxtapose the two. You cannot put kush, weed, those things that are common to the common man and put it at an equivalence of cocaine and call our country a narco state. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. So let's continue the conversation. At present, there's no public, established evidence demonstrating that Liberia meets that threshold. We have not gotten there. And I continue to be repetitive here tonight that if we don't act now and act collectively as a society and hold the government foot to the fire, but potentially we could get to a narco state. So while the drug seizure is alarming, yes, I see why you're saying that, Mr. Moy. The drug seizure is alarming. A major seizure of drugs can also indicate that law enforcement successfully intercepted an illegal shipment rather than the state is controlled by traffickers. Let's see the positive in this. Let's see the positive in this. If the government was solely involved, do you think you would have found that drug at the Roberts International Airport? Can you really understand? Do you understand the power of the government? Can you really understand the power of a government? If the government, the president, all the key ministers, as in the case of a narco state, All of the institutions are compromised. The legislature compromised. The judiciary compromised. You will find $19 million drug on a silver platter. So let's give praise to where it's due. They're telling you here that when the government is still having people out there that can capture these drugs and investigate and do what it should do as a functioning government, then we have not gotten to a narco state. Let us not mix this thing up. Let us focus. So do your research. We don't just talk because we want to talk. We want to talk to make sense. I'm not saying that Liberia is perfect under Boyka. No, I have come here many nights since Boyka became president, and I have frowned on some of the things that are happening. And I will remain frowning on it. Because President Boyka does not send me money. He doesn't put money in my pocket. I wake up and go to work every day. What we do here, we do for our country. But when there's time to be strict and there's time to be honest, we stand honest. And tonight, I'm standing honest. If you disagree with me that Liberia is a narco state, bring the evidence. Anyone who disagrees with me. Because everything I'm saying here is in-depth research to prove that we have not gotten there. So let's do that. All right? The political context, yes, we agree. It is also to recognize that we have made that statement as an opposition leader after leaving office. When you leave office and you're so disgruntled, you will look for anything to go back against the one that is trying their best. And that's what we're seeing. You see a Carlos Gray big mansion, he hoping that he's going to come back to finish his mansion up there in under where Duazon, Magibi County. Do you see how many of these guys' projects did not finish? And they're coming back? So yes, so the issue here is not about President Weah and Boyka. This issue is about our country's image. That's what this podcast is about tonight. We're talking about do not label the country that you say you want to come back to run in the next few years as a narco state. Because when I come to the research here, you will see that at the time when Weah was in power, Liberia could be considered a narco state. Because there were drug bursts. In fact, he had the biggest one in $100 million where people walk away scot-free. No hair, no tail. They didn't find the drugs. People walk away scot-free. So let's not go there. But let's come back to the conversation. So, supporters of Weah, like in the case of those who are arguing, yes, the investigation is still ongoing. International partners are involved because the case is transactional, and labeling Liberia a narco state before the investigation complete is premature. It is a premature mindset, President Weah, to come out here when an investigation is ongoing and label your country as a narco state. Very premature for a statesman. You should know better. Former President Weah, you should know better. I know you want to score big. I know you want to become relevant. But this is not the fight. This is not the fight. The fight should be holding the government foot to the fire using perfect evidence. Evidence-based, arguments to hold the government foot to the fire. I want you to talk. But listen to me. Your chief of office staff says that you don't talk until they tell you to talk. So did they tell you to talk in this one? Did they tell you to talk? And did they do the research to give you what to say? Then it means that you cannot even think for yourself. Because an educated man like me will not take a statement from a party people who said, I only talk when they tell me to talk because I don't know what they call that. That is it ventriloquist? I think it's ventriloquist, where the guy got his hand in the muppet and he talking for the muppet. Or a jack-o'-lantern where you pull me. So you should have said, oh no, this one you're asking me to talk, I'm not talking it. Because it doesn't make sense. I did my own small research. We ain't get to a narco state yet. And that's what you should have done. That's what you should have done of former President Weah. So, therefore, Weah's statement can be misunderstood as a political characterization and warning. But it should not be treated as an established factual description unless future evidence show that drug trafficking has systematically penetrated and compromised the highest levels of the Liberian state. We are not there. Not many people there. If it was so, bring the names out of where we have come to that point and have fallen on our knees to be a narco state. So let's compare the two regimes. All right. George Weah government. Several significant drug seizures occurred during the presidency of George Weah. I want you to listen to me, and you can go. It's out there. It's facts. Between 2018 to 2024, in fact, two of the largest publicly reported cocaine seizures in Liberia before this 2026 seizure we're talking about. Here's the year, the drug, and the estimated value. In 2022, 520 kilograms of cocaine at approximately $100 million was seized. Authorities discovered the cocaine concealed in shipping containers imported from Brazil. 4 men were charged, but a jury later acquitted them. The acquittal drew criticism and prompted the government to appeal unsuccessfully. You hear that? Do you remember that? Then we have 2023, various narcotics including kush and cocaine, multiple seizures. The LDEA carried out numerous operations under Weah government against traffickers. During this time period, President Weah also signed the Drug Control and Substance Act of 2023, strengthening penalties for drug-related offenses. So you see, we can give you that praise. I could have taken that piece out of the researcher. Let me give you your praise. You signed Control, Drug and Substance Act of 2023. So just taking that action, former President Weah, was enough to help to curb what was happening within the drug shipment and transportation across the country. That in itself. So that should be a legacy that you should transpose to this government. By saying, President Bouaka, you remember in 2023, I signed the Drug Control and Substance Act. I need you to utilize that document to begin to work within the framework of that document. Hey, my people. Somebody ABC thing and you will not learn it, then you won't come here and argue with people. People who put time in the things that they come here to talk about. Let's tussle now. They won $19 million drugs that they want to turn our country into narco state when we have $100 million in 2022, 120 kg on a Weah time. Amen. So then let's look at that, right? Then in 2023, the same year, we had several airport and border-related seizures were reported, reflecting growing concern over Liberia's role as both a transit point for cocaine and a destination for synthetic drugs like kush. Do we know why Weah came to the CIA? Do any of us know? I don't think so. Could some of these things be some of the relatable things that was happening in his government that he had to be called by the CIA? Who Liberian president ever been called by the CIA to come here and come sit down in a dark room to have conversation? Who? Okay? Because it says here repeated seizure. And now Liberia, there was growing concern reflecting Liberia as a transit point. Let us not be quick to forget. It was just the other day. So the $100 million cocaine case was the most notable case under President Weah, which was in 2022. So here's some key facts. Let me give you some key facts. The cocaine was reportedly hidden inside container from Brazil. Shipping containers. The government prosecuted 4 defendants for trafficking-related offenses. In 2023, a jury acquitted all 4 defendants, finding the prosecution had not proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt. So if Liberia was a narco state, those guys were going to walk free? You would have even gotten $100 million drugs? Because you wouldn't have even known about it. So even under WIA, Liberia was not a narco state. So it cannot be a narco state now under Boyka. No one labor is a narco state. The government appealed, but the acquittals ultimately stood, and those guys walk away scot-free. Was drug trafficking only a problem under WIA? No. Drug trafficking in Liberia predates WIA's presidency. Let's give him credit. It predates his presidency and has continued after he left office. Liberia's geographic location on the western coast of Africa has a long standing relationship with transatlantic drug trade. It makes that place that West African sub-region is vulnerable as a transit route for international narcotics. What distinguishes recent years is the scale and publicity of some seizures, including the $100 million drug under WIA and the $19.2 million drug under Joseph Boakai. So here's the balanced assessment. The record shows that major drug seizures during WIA presidency, his administration took legislative action by enacting a stronger drug control law in 2023. Maybe he even signed the law and didn't know what was in the law. That's why he's not using the law to his advantage. He should be using the law to his advantage to hold this government foot to the fire, instead of being someone who would be asked to speak before he speaks, and then when he speaks out of context. Okay? At the same time, critics argue that the handling of the $100 million drug case was ineffective, and it ended up in an acquittal for those who were established to be the defendants who financed and organized the shipment. Supporters of WIA respond that making large seizures demonstrate that security agencies were actively intercepting traffickers, even if persecutions did not always succeed. So what makes that situation different from now? When they let 4 people walk away, the argument was, at least we investigated, at least we talk about it. We didn't find the drugs, though. We didn't see the drug. I don't even know where this 19 million drugs sitting at. So these facts illustrate why drug trafficking has become a point of a political debate in Liberia across successive administrations, rather than as an issue unique to a single president. So this drug thing is not unique to only WIA, and it's not even unique only to this Boyka, and it's not even going to be unique to, and the both of them is going to come on and on and on and on. But what do we do as a country to prevent us from being seen as a narco state? It's what we should be advocating. It's what we should be preaching. It's what we should be doing. We can't stop drugs. As sophisticated as America is, she can't stop drugs. It's a way of life. It's a way of life. It penetrates the economy. It penetrates every territory. It's like water. It's like water. It finds the smallest cracks. It's like water finds the smallest crack. So we need to be careful. So no one is labeling anybody here as not doing anything. What we're seeing here tonight as part of this conversation is that we should stop calling our country a narco state, because we have not gotten to that point. Now let's go to Joe Boyka. I'm balancing the scorecard here. Some of the most significant publicly reported drug seizures in Liberia in recent years. This is not a complete list yet because the Boyka government is moving about, but let's look at the year and the approximate quantity and value. So in 2024, heroin and kush, about 1.8 kilogram of heroin and 1.8 kilogram of kush at an amount of US $100 million. No, $100,000. Take it back. $100,000 was captured by the DEA, arrested an Ivorian national in Sincor, Monrovia, and charged him with possession and trafficking. I don't know if you remember that case. An Ivorian national from Cote d'Ivoire came to Liberia with a value of 100,000, 1.8 kg of heroin, 1.8 kg of kush, and he was caught in the Sincor area and was charged with possession and trafficking in Boyka's government in 2024. In 2025, during September through October, the operations of the LDEA reported 178 arrests and narcotics value at over $40.6 million seized nationwide. Nationwide. If this country is a narco state, would they be going about the place and seizing these drugs and bringing it to the public attention? Do you know what a narco state's operation is like? There's no governance, right? People die every day. The LDA in 2025 annual report recorded seizure, including cocaine, heroin, kush, marijuana, tramadol, and precursor chemicals, with an estimated value at $10 million. Okay, then 2026, cocaine, kush, and tramadol. All right, about 673.5 gram of cocaine, 792.6 gram of kush, and 460 strips of tramadol worth over $11 million was seized. 2 suspects were arrested in Sano County and forwarded for prosecution. In 2026, mixed narcotic 422.8 gram of assorted drugs, including marijuana, kush, cocaine, tramadol. The LDA reported 233 arrests nationwide and seizure value more than $433,950. John Security intercepted one of the largest cocaine shipment at the Roberts International Airport, which is the 19.2 million we're talking about in 2026. So this is the reflection here that I wanted to balance the scorecard, that we said that there were kush, there were marijuana, there was this in the WIA government, is now festering in the Boyka's government, and something needs to be done to prevent our country from becoming a narco state or to be perceived as a narco state. We have not gotten there yet. So the seizure point of several of these, Liberia has become an important transit point for international drug trafficking, particularly cocaine, moving between South America, West Africa, and Europe. Law enforcement agencies are making larger and more frequent seizures than in previous years, suggesting either increased trafficking activities, improved enforcement, or both. The $19.2 million cocaine seizure is widely regarded as one of the largest in the country's history today. Of course, not as large as the $19 million. So, does this prove that Liberia is a narco state? Not by itself. I repeat, the research says not by itself. Large and repeated drug seizures demonstrate that drug trafficking is a serious national security challenge. Let's agree on that. But they do not automatically establish that a country is a narco state. I think I should repeat that so you understand it. Again, large and repeated drug seizures demonstrate that drug trafficking is a serious national security challenge, but they do not automatically establish that a country is a narco state. That label generally requires evidence that senior state institutions have been systematically captured or controlled by drug trafficking organizations. The more important questions remain. Okay? Who financed these shipments? Who organized the trafficking networks? Will those individuals be identified, arrested, and successfully prosecuted? That's what we should be focused on rather than call and label our country a narco state. The answer to those questions are likely to shape how Liberia's anti-drug efforts are judged in the years ahead. In conclusion, President Weah is in no position to term Liberia a narco state. The country that he once served and was faced with the biggest drug case of $100 million, in which the accused walked away scot-free. That is the conclusion. He is in no position to call our country a narco state, the country he once ruled, where $100 million drug fiasco went in the breeze. The acquitters became acquitted. Okay? And so he's in no state. I want to thank all of you for joining me here tonight. Volcano Shelton here, representing the Issues Room. Alfonso couldn't be here with me. But, again, this is not about taking sides here. I just thought that we needed to balance the scorecard, that our country is still in the direction of becoming a narco state if nothing is done. We are hoping that government would beef up its effort, investigate. Look, if I were president, even my son gets involved in drug, I'm charging him and I'm planting him where he belongs. Because when you cover up for people who should know your worth and your value, right? As a president, you should hold no loyalty to no one. I don't care how you do it, because you're there for the people in the country. So President Bouaga, I'm closing on you now. We've balanced the scorecard. Our country has not gotten to be in narco state. Disregard hearing that from your predecessor and those in the opposition. The focus should be on utilizing this investigation to begin to shape the destiny of the country and change the narrative. And if anyone closer to you involved, you must act within the confines of the law. You must act. President Tauber did it. If you know the Moses Tuer case, people felt that President Tauber wouldn't have signed the death warrant because there were big hands in the death of Moses Tuer. Who knows that story? In the late 70s, the musician, the Gribble musician in Maryland County, who was mutilated through ritualistic killing. Tauber signed the death warrant. It was tough. So President Bouaga, act. Act now. If the investigation is dragging too long, change people, bring the right people. If it requires you to seek some international investigators to come in, bring them. But investigation has to take place, and with what you call updates. You can't leave the people in the dark. You can't leave the country in the dark. There is an international optics here. Your internal opposition force are calling the country a narco state. It is on you to change that narrative, and it will be based on how this investigation goes. So I hope you from the UP can share this podcast with the president, share our objective with the president, and let him act in the soonest possible time, because we don't have the time. I would think that the gift you can give the Liberian people for their birthday, the 179th birthday on July 26th, would be the conclusion of this case, who are booked, and what would be done. That would be my position. Give the Liberian people a 179th birthday gift by closing this case through a logical conclusion that would be embraced not just by the internal society but by the international community and the world. They'll take you seriously. I was just praising your foreign minister. How do you think it's going to look when she goes out there to propagate the agenda, to propagate the message for the country, to kind of sharpen our image? And we have a $90 million cocaine drug case lingering over the country's canopy. We need to act now. And it's on you as Mr. President. That's what you asked for. You wanted to be the president of this country. You say you would change things. So no time for snilling. Give the Liberian people 179th birthday. And it will be my closing statement here tonight. I want to thank all of you for joining me. Volcano Shelton here, saying thank you. Man, again, as I said, Alfonso couldn't be here. Hopefully he will make time for next week, but I'll be here on Thursday with the Volcano Shelton show, 7 p.m. same time, Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to catching up with a lot of you. I'd like to thank all of you who showed up here tonight. I'm a Fremont LIB guy. You thanks for your comments in the chat room. Let me see. I know I saw Solomon Mwen. My man Salo, or Solo rather. How's everything with you? I know most of the time we clash a little bit, but that's what politics is about. Flumbo Livingstone, thank you, man, for your insight and all the things you share here with us tonight. Prince Yeno, thank you also for coming. I think I saw a female here earlier. Sid Wilson, my man, welcome, thank you. Mendy's Love, thank you for joining us here tonight. Would like to just throw some of the comments here quickly before I go. LIB Gayu, he says here the drug issue is not unique to Boyka or to WIA. It dates back to early administration and beyond. Yes, even Charles Taylor, because it was the influential tool that is used to have the small kids fight the war, to be brave. President Boyka suspended someone from local by the name of King. Oh my man, that down the big thing down there. He suspended King, but we know what King. They stay passing around. Say King walking all over the place, enjoying. Remember in the cigar bar. So, Flomo Livingstone look for something else, my man. Don't make people think say I'm supporting you, I'm begging you. All right. Ahmad Freeman, he says that Liberia is not a narco state, but the way drugs are being marketed in the country, we should not be surprised if Liberia becomes a narco state. DJ George Weah was wrong for saying that. Thank you. All right, guys. Good night, everyone. I'll be back here Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your night. Keep watching the World Cup. I don't know where Africa is going, but at least I think 7 teams in the World Cup. Let me see. Let me check my finger here the African way. We got Cape Verde. We got Ghana. We got Democratic Republic of Congo. We still have Senegal. We have Morocco. I feel losing my mind. We got Morocco. We got Egypt, right? Is Egypt still? No, Algeria, not Egypt. Algeria. So that's 6 I've counted, but I think there's one more. What I know so far is South Africa is gone. Who else is gone? Oh, Ivory Coast is gone, and somebody else, I believe. But that's it for now. I'll get my facts together by Thursday. Thank you all. Good night, everyone. See you on Thursday.